laughing because that's much more important than meditating and studying and chanting and praying and all this. Yeah, because we want to discover the nature of our mind, and when you are in a good mood and when you laugh and when you're totally open, you come very close to the nature of your mind, to the nature of what we are. Okay, here I have this thing which I have to cover. Um, this is my instructions here. So it says that people should introduce themselves before I start. Yeah, you don't have the same thing, so I can still pretty much do whatever I want. But you have the handouts, which are made very nicely. So are you okay with that? If you tell me your name and why you're here, and if you do have some experience with Buddhism, because some of your faces I know. I've only been here once. I've been in the old place a few times, but here I've only been once. I think about a year ago or something. But I think I do recognize some of your faces. So would you like to start, or shall I start? Then you see how this works somehow. Okay. So my name is Losang. This is my ordained name. I've been a Buddhist nun for 30 years almost. I've been living in India for almost 20 years, at Tushita Center in Bodhgaya also. And yeah, now since about maybe 10, 11, 12 years, I'm mostly in Bern, but I also go to other places and I try to share whatever I've learned. So I'm not really a scholar. I'm not a scholar. So the way I present it, and I can't present it in any other way anyway, is like so that you can do something with it, so that you can apply it in your daily life. Now, I'm not saying that high philosophical studies are no good. I'm just not capable. That's all. To present it to you like that. But if you want that, then there's plenty of stuff on YouTube and from very, very good teachers and all of this. Okay, so this is a bit like that.
My name is Stephanie. So I have no experience at all in meditation or Buddhism. So my friend Roman told me about this center,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's a good way to learn something new.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Roxanne, and I've been coming to this center for about half a year.
Mm-hmm.
Been getting more experience with Buddhism and
Okay,
meditation in that time, and I took
okay.
my refuge vows in January.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Liesel. I do some meditation, but I don't know a lot about Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered this on Facebook, and when they said, "Are you curious to know more?" that struck a chord with me. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to the next few Mondays
Okay,
getting experience.
thank you.
Hello, my name is Margot, and similarly, I found out about this course from the newsletter, and the same. I kind of feel like I don't have much experience with Buddhism, but I have been practicing meditation for some years now, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been a lot of scholars I've been reading or people kind of whose work I've been following are not maybe Buddhist per se, but they mention Buddhist teachings, and I kind
Mm-hmm.
of felt like I'd like to know more.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Fabio, and I'm a scientist. And I got close to Buddhism a little bit by chance, kind of 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was traveling in Nepal, I stayed in Bhutan for a good 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And after that, I come here a little bit more regularly.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I'm Chantal. It's my second time here. So my friend Fabian introduced me to
Okay.
Buddhism. And I'm really much looking forward to it. I have experience just in, like, I did some yoga and meditation for years now, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to start exploring Buddhism. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm Marcus. I've been here for a few Tuesdays
Mm-hmm.
before. I did, well, I still do Zen meditation for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Thank you.
I'm Bridget. I joined the group Lhagsam group for quite a while, but I always miss a part because I can't come.
Mm.
So it's always good to have a review.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So the meditation is very
Yeah,
good.
okay.
So
Yeah.
learning always something new.
Okay. Yeah, life is pretty busy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
for teachers coming in.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm Fabienne. I went to Kapan this year in February because my friend Romano
Okay.
recommended it to me. And then
Well, it's a good sign that you're still here somehow. So I think.
and then I had a very intense week that I really loved, and I came back and I was like, I don't want to lose all of those
Mm.
things that I learned. And then I googled and found this place, which is
Mhm.
actually right next to my home,
Okay.
conveniently enough. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Good.
now I'm here.
Great.
Yeah, you all know. I'm Romana. I've been to Copan last year,
Uh-huh.
and Fabienne found this place, so we joined each other, and yeah, just wanted to learn more about Buddhism
Mhm.
and anything because we like the philosophy
Yeah.
of it, and
He was asking people.
getting people in.
I'm Lily. It's my first time, so yeah, excited
Okay.
to get to know more. Yeah,
Okay. Have you had any experience with Buddhism at all or no?
not really.
No. Okay.
Hi, my name is Julian. I've been into the Maya tradition for quite a while, but I started off with the Zen tradition, but I didn't feel too comfortable, so maybe 5 years ago or something, I went into the Vajrayana lineage, and I felt really great and felt comfortable, and this was like, yeah, this is the right thing for me.
Mhm.
I also attended some retreats, and beforehand I also attended pujas, etc. With Lama Lodro Rinpoche.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I did, and I was quite satisfied there. But since last September, I started doing animal rights activism, and I simply couldn't bear it anymore that he is eating meat and that he's violating
Okay.
principles of Buddhism, which is so clear, especially for bodhisattvas, they're not allowed to eat meat, and
Uh-huh.
he just violates those
Okay.
terms, and so I'm not really comfortable there anymore. And I just heard that in this center, especially, usually teachers are at least vegetarian.
Yeah. Okay. But it's a beginner's course, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
it's like
right.
for people who have never heard about Buddhism. So
Yeah, that's
we
right.
start, we start right from scratch. So I hope you won't be too bored. But it's good to have somebody who knows, so then you can, if you're not happy with what I'm saying, you can always remind me, or you can tell me. So it's quite good to.
Yeah, but
Also, I do like to involve people, not just me going, blah blah blah, and then you don't have the right to say what you want to say. So please
I'm still
feel.
in the beginner
Uh,
stage,
uh,
so
yeah, yeah. This is the modesty of the Buddhists. All of them say we're all beginners. Well, yeah, I mean, but still, there is knowledge of, like, the stages of how you get involved in Buddhism or how you learn is first you listen, then you think about it, whether it suits you, whether you find it kind of applicable, whether you find it reasonable, whether you find it logical, and then you try to integrate it into your life by actually practicing the things, by actually trying out the methods, which sometimes are not very comfortable, especially as you go along the way towards the end of the path, when, as you said, when you go into the bodhisattva vehicle. But the first thing in Buddhism is always to learn to look after yourself properly, so that um, you are in a way that you are in a state so that you can be of benefit to others, and you don't you can look after your own mind, basically. So this is how it starts, or this is how the path starts. So it's very much about practice, it's about structure, it's about experience. Like, Buddhism is not so much a devotional or belief system, although it looks like that sometimes, but that's not, I don't think that's what the Buddha meant. So, as the Buddha said when he was teaching, whatever I'm saying, don't just believe me, but use it or take it and try to find out whether it's true, the same way as you would want to try out to see when you find a lump that is shiny and you want to see whether it's gold or not. that you would make certain tests with it, like the best test we know that you bite the coin, and then if it makes a dent, it's gold, and if it doesn't, it's not, something like that. So unfortunately, Buddhism, you can't just bite into it and then you can see if it works or not, because sometimes we very much have to go against our habits. We very much have to go against our ego. Very often we go against also our maybe our views or something like that. But yeah, so there's from your side, if you do study and practice Buddhism, there's a lot of um, yeah, you have to check out whether it's valid for you or not, whether it makes sense, because we're all a bit different. Yeah. Oh yeah, you didn't introduce yourself. Sorry. It's good too. That's. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm York. I think I've come here also 5 days ago.
Uh huh.
I think I want to get back into meditation, which I used to do, and
Okay.
also
Mhm.
not time.
Okay. So we won't do again. I have to disappoint you. We won't do too much meditation during the course because it's more theory, and but we will do some. But as I understand now, you have also meditation group, isn't it? Or a meditation time where people just come to meditate
So we
and
have meditation on Monday mornings
there's no teachings.
before work, and then we have, I think starting June, be on Saturdays,
Yeah.
and then every Tuesday evening.
So that's very good. It's good to offer it in a group, but also if you do want the mind to transform, if you do want something happen with you, then you also it's good to sit at home, like daily, kind of thing. Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes here, what you learn in the group is more the technique, which is extremely simple. I don't know why we have like thousands of books on meditation, because I think we're still trying to find something where that makes it easier, and it just goes like this and then it works. So I don't know, but it's just it's just sitting, basically. So the technique is very easy, but then doing it is very difficult because we're not used to sit still. Less and less with the multitasking and doing so many things all the time, um, and all this. So what you learn here, like the energy of the group and your respect for the group, makes you stay put. You sit. I don't know what you do. How long we do in Bern. Usually we do every second week. We do 3 times 20 minutes without any instructions, just sitting, and then people start to see where they have a problem. If I just go blah 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 again, it's nice because it keeps you in the present, because there's a voice going and it keeps you there. But then for me, it's a little bit like when you learn how to ride a bike, and first you have these two wheels at the side. In Swiss German, Stützrädli. Yeah. Don't know how it's called in English. Yeah, the training wheels. So for me, it's a bit like if you only go to meditations that are being led, you never take them off, and you never learn actually the fun of riding freely, because even though it holds you, but it also limits you a bit. So this is why, because the people who come in Bern, they come very regularly. They all know what they should do. So then we just we do we of course the motivation, and at the end the dedication, but then the rest is just sitting. So, and then, yeah, it's very good to do it at home. So, of course, when you hear the word Buddhism, very much everybody brings it together with meditation. As I said, meditation is a big part. Like you listen to the teachings, then you think about them, and then you meditate on them in order to integrate them. So that's it's called analytical meditation, or a reflection on what you heard, until you start to feel something, and like something clicks, kind of. That's one type of meditation. The other type of meditation is concentration, where you just focus the mind and try to keep it on the object. It's not really called mindfulness. It's more like concentration is a word that one thinks one has to be like that, but it's where the mind is able to first relax, then to become stable, and then to become clear. So you can then, maybe we'll try that one also at one point, so that you learn where to go during the meditation. Because if your mind, one thing that what the Tibetans forget is that we are totally tense, the Westerners. So we hear, look at your breath and look and at your nose or whatever, and then we get very, very narrow here, and then we get all tense because we need to hold the attention there, and then definitely it's not working. So the first step is actually to relax, but have the body straight. Uh, so then, if you so then, when you do focus on your breath, you would then focus on the whole body, kind of the breath in your body. Doesn't matter where, like, so that the mind becomes also. The more the mind becomes wide, the more it becomes relaxed. Okay. Then, if you feel that the mind is not stable, then it's good to focus on your belly. So this is maybe for the people who already meditate a bit at home. So you can try it out. If your mind is going into thoughts a lot, it's not stable, staying on the breath, then you focus on your belly, like this part, because it's close to the ground where you're sitting. And then when you feel that the mind is pretty stable, then you go to your nose. Yeah, so it's very, very helpful. It's from Alan Wallace, actually, this thing. And I found, from myself, I found it very helpful. Because you also want to have some success, not just, struggle. This is what one brings into contact with meditation quite a bit. Okay, so much about meditation. Meditation is part of it, but it also has the part where you learn about methods, where you learn about instructions. And what we will do, so in the handout there's a little bit more than is in the FPMT program, because I added the whole topics of what is called the Lam Rim, the graduated path to full awakening. So it might be helpful in the future when you continue with this, because you will have to hear this, I'm sorry to say, again and again and again and again. And the more you find it valuable, and the more you try to practice, and the more it starts maybe to work, and you see that it actually does make your life already now a little bit easier, although it's not for that. It's to kind of see reality as it is. It doesn't get boring, yeah, with time, even though you always hear the same thing again and again and again and again, and you always hear it a little bit differently. But what I'm hoping to do is to give you in these 4 evenings, so that you really know from A to Z, but in a pretty superficial way. But you see the structure of the path, that you see it's not just at random what you are talking about. And also those things about bodhicitta, bodhisattva comes pretty much at the end. As I said, that first you learn to take good care of yourself. You learn how to look after your own mind before we start looking after others or helping others. So like this. So this is what we will be starting from next Monday, that we will be looking at. But I would like to start with who the Buddha is, and what the Buddha taught, like the foundations of what is said. Because Buddhism is very much, somebody there, they can just come in. So maybe leave the door a bit open for somebody who comes a bit late. So Buddhism, started off in India in like about 2,600 years ago, and then it spread in Asia, went to Sri Lanka, and then it went up north to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Thailand, Burma, Laos, Cambodia. There's quite a lot of Buddhist countries, actually. Tibet, Mongolia. Hello. It's okay. Don't worry. You're not too late. You're just late. So, but it's okay. It's okay to be late. Better late than never, as they say. This is another thing. We come into a group and everybody's already sitting there. There's this little bit of little bit embarrassed feeling. Don't be embarrassed. Be happy that you're here. So just relax. It's okay. So. A bit like this. So this is also what you learn actually in your meditation, or with your mindfulness, or with your attention. You learn to see when emotions go into a little bit not such helpful state, and you feel them in your body, and it starts to get narrow, and to learn to see them and then to relax. So this is basically the main thing. So Shakyamuni Buddha, anybody knows the story? A little bit. What was he? Huh? What was he? He was born as a prince. Yeah, in Lumbini, he was born as a prince. Okay, so he had, I would say he had a life like we have here now, more or less. You know, if you look at the rest of the world, the way we live in Switzerland, although um, every mind can create a problem out of something, but if we look at our present situation in Switzerland compared to other situations um, in the world, like I think society itself in this part of the world has never been so well advanced in medicine and science, technology, the way we move around, what is available to us, what we consume. As you said, you know, we have the luxury of really being able to choose our food, whether it's organic or not organic, and definitely we don't have to eat animals anymore. I have actually a very nice picture of Mathieu Ricard, which I show to kids. I give workshops to kids sometimes, and he's holding a goose. He's actually holding a goose that the goose is putting her head on his shoulder like this with this long neck, and then there's a little sign which says, "Be kind to animals, don't eat them." So for me, this helps very much because I do like meat, but I don't eat it. And sometimes when I get like a lot of, I have, I would like to have some. Then I think about this picture and this quote. Actually, for me, is very very helpful. So if we have other people like me who would like to be vegetarians, but sometimes don't succeed. When you're standing in front of the meat and you're about to buy it, you can just think, be kind to animals, don't eat them. I found this very, very helpful. So I'm just kind of sharing that with you. So, but we do have the luxury, which some other people, maybe they don't, because the only thing that is available is whatever is there. Still, we're not happy as we could be, isn't it? You know, I mean, if I would ask you now, are you happy? What would most of you say? Yeah, isn't it? Could you be happier? So then you're not happy. Because if you can be happier, then, you know, we are not really happy. We're just relatively happy. Yeah. And um, so, so the point of this whole thing is to see that, gosh, we got all these things. Everything is available to us. And so much effort was put into like making all this progress, isn't it? So much money goes into it, so much thought, so much study, so much kind of cooperation to make an iPhone that is a little bit faster than the other one, or can do more things, or whatever. The train is 2 minutes, 2 minutes faster to even build another tunnel so that we get there 2 minutes faster, whatever. So in all this, I'm not saying progress is no good, but in all this, there's a lot of promise that we should be happy, isn't it? Or we should be having no problems anymore. But it seems that that's not working somehow. Yeah, I think, because when I look at the moment, the big word is resilience. In the West here, you know, people talk a lot about resilience, a lot of courses about how to build up resilience. So resilience for the body we don't need to do courses for that, you know. Either you know it, and you know that if you eat healthy food and if you have some exercise and you go out in the fresh air, that your body will build up resilience. So even if you are you have vitamins, minerals, even if you are in a group of somebody has a cold, you're not catching it immediately, or if you catch it, then the resilience is you bounce back pretty quickly. But then I think we neglected totally the resilience of the mind, because people more and more start to get, not the people who come here. So please, when I say these things, I usually, in general, I think society, Because people who come to these places, they're in general, they're quite good and they're quite okay compared to others who are, getting upset about every little thing, who are very sensitive, who start mobbing each other in the internet and all these kinds of things. Do you see what I mean? So what we're trying to do here is like to build up the resilience, kind of the mind, and not so much of the body, although the body is also important. So the Buddha was a prince who had everything. I mean, he was very intelligent. Everybody loved him, and but at the time of his birth, there was a prophet, or like a, don't know how to say in English, somebody a sage who can see the future or something like that. Jeff. Anyway, somebody who sees the future, fortune teller, somebody who sees the future, whatever. And he predicted that either he would become a great king or he would become a great religious leader. So of course his dad wasn't very happy with the religious leader. He would rather have had him to become a king. So he thought, if I keep everything that is unpleasant away from him, then he will not be interested in religion, because probably already at that time, and still now, I think the view is more or less, religion is when there's a problem, then we take refuge somewhere in religion, isn't it? So it's kind of for the weak, for people who can't cope with life, then they turn toward religion. I think that's a bit the view. When I see my old schoolmates, when they see me, then they go, "Oh yeah, well, it's very nice what you're doing, but I don't need it." Yeah. And I think, like most of in the Western world, most of the people, they would not call themselves religious. Yeah, they might say they believe in a god or something like that. Religion is an interesting thing. How would you define religion? Because that also we can look at it, whether Buddhism is a religion or not. How would you define religion? Like definition, like if somebody has never seen a pizza, and now you have to define pizza in order to explain what a pizza is. How would you define pizza? Come on. Never seen a pizza. Now we have to take something else. Dough. Okay, dough, round, vegetables, baked, flat, not covered. All these things, like the characteristics. You use the characteristics. So then religion, what is religion? If you want to define religion. A belief system? Believe in what? Then we're all religious if it's only a belief system. Most of the people believe a lot of money will make you happy, a healthy body will make you happy. So it's all belief systems, that one. Yeah. Okay, belief system. But you believe in what? Some kind of God, which is omnipotent, probably, and omniscient, and all that, which is good, which is helpful. Yeah. Is that how you would define it?
Also some spiritual practice.
Meaning.
There is prayers, for example.
Prayers, spiritual practice are only prayers. The spirit, what is the spirit? Spirit is the mind, basically, isn't it? So spiritual practice for me is not just like something external. It's more like you work with your own mind. Yeah, that's what I would call a spiritual practice. And that I would say that would define a religion. And trying to be a good person also. Having a very, very clear set of ethical conduct that you choose whether that suits you, whether that is okay for you or not. And then also, when we come to ethical conduct, I mean, what I have learned, and I found it very helpful when we talk about karma, it's kind of, it's more for me like I look at it like a mirror and not like a window, that I look what others are doing, because it doesn't help me if everybody else is really doing lots of nasty things, and I'm just doing little nasty things. It doesn't really make my little nasty things better, because other people are doing bigger nasty things. So this is it. But when we say religion is like it's believing in an omnipotent God, then Buddhism would not be a religion, because the Buddha is not a God. So this is why I wanted to kind of to make that clear. But still, it's considered a religion because it is a spiritual practice. It has a goal. It has ethical conduct. It has like methods how to develop a good heart, how to be not a nuisance in the world, but how to be actually how to be of help. Okay. So Siddhartha, that was his name as the prince. So he grew up and he was very much protected from seeing unpleasant things. But then one day, I'll make it a bit short. So one day he went out and he saw a sick person. He saw an old person, and he saw a funeral. He saw a dead person, and then he saw somebody, a sadhu, somebody who is doing spiritual practices. He saw these four people, but he's never seen them. He's never seen a sick person because he was so protected. He's never seen an old person, and he's never seen definitely not a dead person. And he could see that there was a lot of suffering involved. And so he was asking his charioteer, Chana, he was asking, well, will everybody have to endure that? And he said, well, yeah, whether you're rich or whether you're not rich, whether you're instructed or not instructed, you're very intelligent or not intelligent, everybody at one point gets sick. Everybody gets old. If you don't die young, everybody will die. And so these are these three things that he thought, well, what's the point of having so much money if you're not protected from sickness and old age and death? Because he could definitely see that this is sickness, that this is not satisfactory, let's say. Because the wish to be happy we all have, yeah. This is inbuilt. The wish to be free from suffering, this is inbuilt. That's why we are making so much progress in the West. This is why the world looks the way it looks, our world, because we have the possibilities, like our basic needs of food and drink and some security are kind of covered. And this is why we can make, we can spend our time with making so much research on like outer comfort and outer things. Otherwise, we would have to be concentrated on our survival. So he came back to the palace and he thought like, well, I can either now live a life in total comfort, but still never know when the sickness comes, or old age will come, when death comes, or I could go out and try to find a cure for that, or at least try to find the causes why it is like this. So he left the palace. He left his wife and his 6-year-old son. So you better think about whom you're following here. Somebody who left his wife and his 6-year-old son, who were well cared for, though, in the palace. But somehow he thought it would be worthwhile to find a cure for all this, not just for himself, but also for his wife and his sons, and for everybody else. Yeah, also they were, as I said, they were well cared for, but still. It's a big question, isn't it? Is that a good thing to leave your 6-year-old son and your wife in order to go and on search for a greater goal? I don't have an answer for that. I'm just asking you, or it's good to ask yourself that question. If somebody has a cure for AIDS or for cancer, but staying with the 6-year-old son and his wife, he doesn't have enough time to really put energy into the research, and then he leaves his wife and his son, would that be a good thing? Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I mean, he had a very clear intention that it wasn't just for himself, and that he saw that with this whole comfort that he has, that it's not satisfactory. It's no point spending so much time and so much energy in building palaces and beautiful places and having beautiful food and parties and music and all that. And this is why he left. Also, yeah. Yeah, and so many people go there. So many people know his story, and they go there, and they still feel that somebody very, very special has been living there, and he was helpful to so many people who were in total misery, not by giving them food and drink and shelter, but by giving them like spiritual support. Yeah, love, compassion. So there you go. So the Buddha is not the only one. But he wasn't the Buddha yet, so he was Prince Siddhartha. Anyway, so he went on a quest and he went to many, many meditation teachers, and he was able to go into very deep absorptions, but he still hadn't found the answer yet. So then he decided that now his body was basically he went to kind of two extremes. First, he was fasting and living of very, very, very little. So sometimes you see statues of the Buddha, but he wasn't a Buddha then yet. He was just on his way to become a Buddha. By the way, Buddha means awake. That's also good to know. Awake from the dream of inherent existence, or awake from believing in a dualistic way of seeing things, like what I see is out there and is separate from my mind. Okay? Awake from believing that the world exists out there without my mind projecting it. And we can take the word dream is a very good example. We can see in a dream the power of the mind. How the mind can create a reality and a story, and you're totally involved in it, and you believe that it's absolutely real because your whole emotional world goes along with it, doesn't it? The moment you wake up, what happens to your emotions? Hmm? What happens to your emotion? Like a bad, like somebody was running after you. Me, I'm always, either I'm missing trains or planes or I'm losing my stuff. This is definitely the thing in my dreams because I'm traveling a lot. Yeah. And then, of course, very stressful. You need to go somewhere, can't find your passport, all this. It's terrible. Then I wake up and then my stress it disappears. Because why? Because I see that my mind has created that dream. So what Buddhism is telling us, that our mind, the way we see the world, is not as separate as we think from our mind. The way I see the world, I am the only one who sees the world like that. Yeah, that it's my mind projecting it. So, but we'll come to that when we talk about emptiness. So that's what the word Buddha means: awake, awake from the dream of inherent or dualistic existence, or also awake from the dream that we have a separate me or a separate I that we cherish and we try to satisfy. So basically, when you follow Buddhism and when you practice Buddhism, this kind of view of me and the others becomes like us, which then we behave totally different when we think us. And so in some occasions, we can, like naturally we think us, right? When we are in a group, like, I don't know, anybody goes see football matches? Nobody, then that doesn't work. You don't dare to say, or yeah, but you were not nodding very clearly. Now I live in Bern. Now Bern is like hockey and football. They're champions, Swiss champions, both of them. So of course, like everybody buys the jersey. I mean, it's such a money-making thing. Last year they were masters also. So the jersey was yellow. So Bern is yellow and black, their jersey. So then the jersey was yellow. So everybody who went on that parade when they won, I don't know, thousands of people had a yellow jersey. Now they again became master champion. So now the jersey is black. So everybody has to buy a new jersey. I mean, terrible. But anyway, if I would go into that parade with the jersey from Zurich, which is white and blue, I mean, they would be them and I would be me. So they would think like definitely no, I wouldn't be us. Yeah. So I would definitely have to put this year a black jersey over the white and blue jersey. You see what I mean? So sometimes we have very, very, very naturally we have a feeling of us, and then we behave differently. But when we have a feeling of me and them, then there's danger, and we separate ourselves, we isolate ourselves, we become quite defensive, and so on. So basically, the idea is that we create a mind that is so big that it can think us, and us like really everybody, and not just beings, not just people, but also all sentient beings, also animals and insects and everything. Okay, so it's quite big. It's quite a big thing. Okay, so we're still with the Buddha. So then he decided to really sit down until he has found the answer. So he was in Bodh. This is the place where he attained full awakening. It's a very big pilgrimage place still today. Many, many pilgrims go there. Anybody has been there? Mm. Okay, it's a very powerful place also, Bodh. And so he sat one whole night, and then towards the morning, he could see um, what the cause is for uh, why we don't have what we actually want, why we don't have what we're yearning for, meaning a total well-being. That's what we're yearning for. We're yearning for total satisfaction, lasting satisfaction, not just temporarily when the chocolate is right and uh, when the temperature is right, when the food is right, when the people that we are talking to are right. Yeah, when this is right because we have ideas, then we're happy. But very often we're not happy because we had other ideas, and then we become unhappy. Okay, so in the first period of the night, he saw that he had many, many, many previous lives, actually lives without beginning. His mind became so clear and so subtle that he was able to see that. I know it sounds a bit fantastic, but don't forget the Buddha is not, although he's not an omnipotent God, but he's not an ordinary person like us. So even though sometimes when we see like pictures, it looks pretty much a bit like a person, but it's like he's not. He's awakened. He has overcome death. He's omniscient. He sees past, present, and future of all sentient beings at the same time. Okay. So the first period of the night, he saw all his previous lives. Then the next period of the night, he saw also that there's causes, like the way we use our body, speech, and mind, when we create actions with body, speech, and mind. He could see that, we'll come to that when we talk about karma, that it creates some potentials or imprints on our minds that somewhere in the future, when the right conditions are there for this to ripen, that it will ripen. So that's what he saw directly. Yeah, we can only infer somehow. And then in the last period of the night, he could see that where all this comes from, like the negative emotions that we have or the negative intentions. He talks about attachment, desire. I've been teaching only in German lately, so I have to really think about. You should have invited me after Israel. I go to Israel for 3 months, then it goes a bit better with the English. Um, Desire, attachment, then aversion, anger, and all this. When we do actions out of this, then the action becomes negative. We'll talk more about this because karma is a very, very complex kind of topic. But he could see that, but he could see the root of it. And the root is this wrong view of believing that I am totally separate from you, not seeing this interdependence. Sometimes when we talk about emptiness, it's difficult to understand. When we talk about a lack of inherent existence, sometimes it's better to come from positive side, kind of thinking. Everything that exists dependently on something else. Yeah, it looks as if the I that we have is totally independent. But if there's no other, there is no I. And have you ever noticed that, I'm talking for myself now, I am the only person in these billions and billions of other beings that call myself I. I'm the only one. And I make such a big fuss about myself. Everybody calls me you. It's quite striking, isn't it, also? Yeah, we think we're so important. It's like, yeah, we're such a tiny, tiny, tiny particle when we look at all sentient beings, animals and other beings that we can't see included. And we take ourselves so seriously and so important. Yeah, so everything that exists exists depending on something else, meaning it is empty of existing from its own side, of inherent existence. And he saw that this I, or this sometimes called ego, the self that we have, is a projection, is a wrong view, that we add something to body and mind which is not there, which is an I or a me. We have We have a relative I or a relative me, but we don't have this kind of independent I that seems to be the possessor of body and mind. We'll come more to that. Anyway, he saw that directly, and like this, he overcame this kind of the wrong view, and this is how he became awakened. And he saw things as they are, and he became what's called the Buddha, the awakened one. But he also saw that this is quite profound, and he thought, I don't think I'm going to tell people. They're going to be even more confused, and maybe they will fall into nihilism by they say, oh, okay, then everything is just a protection of the mind, so why should I care? Why should I do something? Why is no point? And so he's sitting there for, it said, like 7 days, and then Brahma and Indra came and asked him to come and teach. So then he agreed, and he got up and he went to a place which is called Sarnath, where he gave the first teaching to his 5 previous companions on the path of asceticism. When he started eating again, they say, oh, look at him, he's such a wimp, and we're not going to talk to him anymore. Because he really tried out the 2 extremes. The hedonistic extreme he had in his palace, okay, where he had everything, and he saw that still something is missing. It's a bit this. Still something is missing. Don't you have that feeling sometimes, that even though what you said, our ideals are very high, and even though if we move only in circles where people have these same ideals and actually live up to them, there's still something missing somehow. Or you got the job that you really wanting. We have moments of wow, but how long do they last? They're so short until we find shortcomings again in there. Or you win you have to think that there's like, they did research, you're a scientist, they did research about the level of happiness of somebody who had an accident, who was paralyzed, and somebody who won the lottery. And after 1 year, actually the one who was paralyzed was happier than the one who won the lottery. Yeah, so like this kind of almost instinctive thing, something is missing. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I'm talking about, do you know that as an experience, not just as a theory? That sometimes when we're very quiet, and sometimes when there's nothing to do, and that's what we're yearning for, isn't it? More space in our life. I mean, most of the people yearn for that. More time, more space, unless you're jobless. I don't know. But how is it with you? Do you feel that you have enough time? If you could have more free time, would you take it if somebody would offer it to you? Huh? Most of the people, isn't it? Yeah. But even then, we do have that time. Still, there seems to be something missing. And sometimes we get very uneasy when there's nothing to do and when we're very quiet. And this is why we fill our time, that we're yearning for quiet time. When we have it, then we fill it. This is how crazy we are. I didn't say stupid, but we are a bit stupid, yeah. But it is tendencies, and it's kind of its wrong views that get us there. So the Buddha started teaching these 5 people. First they said, oh no, he's coming. Look, he started eating. Yeah, like as I said, he had the extreme of hedonism in the palace. Then he went to the extreme of asceticism until he almost died. And so he said, it's not a way of helping other people. And I still haven't found the answer. So then he started eating again. Also, there's a very nice story to that you can Google. You can Google the life of the Buddha, and then you get his life kind of in detail. So the thing is, we don't have so much time here. So he started eating, and then he sat down to find the answer, like that one night after he had eaten again, not with his like totally weak body. And he started teaching what is called the 4 Noble Truths. And this is, although when you look at Buddhism, and actually I'm amazed because I know Tibetan Buddhism quite well, but I don't know the other forms of Buddhism so much, except for maybe Theravada, what is basically here in the West what we call Vipassana. Yeah, these kind of groups, or Insight, this I know quite well, but then other Zen Buddhism, Chan Buddhism, I know very little. So I'm always amazed how different sometimes the views are. But and how, the monks and nuns are dressed differently, the temples look differently, the pictures look differently, the Buddha even looks differently. But what they all have in common is really these basic four things, what the Buddha said. And this in your handout is, um, it's called Four Noble Truths somewhere. Actually, it's in the middle. Huh? 20 page? The page, I know. That's not true. That's then comes in the thing again. I don't hear so well. I'm getting really old. I can't see. I don't hear. I forget a lot of things. Thank you very much. 17. Yeah. Okay, so we look at them. So it's called the Four Noble Truths. They're called noble. It comes from Arya. Noble actually means they're true for somebody who understands them. So then that becomes a noble being. Very often the Buddha, to his disciples who had also attained high realizations, he called them noble beings. Noble in the sense of not following wrong views like that, not because somebody else gave them a title. So this is why noble is not such a good word for us, because we don't really understand what it means. They are true for somebody who has understood it and lives, spontaneously, without having to think first, with these principles. So the first one is that he said there is suffering. So he didn't say you are suffering. So this one is very difficult to teach sometimes in Switzerland, where people say, well, no, but I'm happy. Yeah. So if somebody claims that, then just go and live with them for 3 days is enough. Or sometimes not even 3 days, sometimes just in the morning when the coffee machine is broken. I mean, I used to have a restaurant, but if I look at what coffee machines people have at home now, they're more better and refined than what I had in my restaurant. Privately, at home, I mean, it's crazy. Sorry, it's like... I hope you enjoy your coffee machine, and I hope it never breaks. Because, you see, if you have this fantastic coffee machine, it makes exactly the coffee that you want. If it's broken in the morning, your day is going to be a disaster. Because why? Because you had this fantastic coffee machine. If you have a plunger like we have in the center in Bern, you put the coffee in hot water, and that's it. Wakes you up also. No need to... It's not so bad yet in Switzerland, but if I look like in America, for example, also in Israel, when people order coffee in a restaurant, I mean, the poor woman or man who has to take the order, one wants milk not so hot, lots of foam, not much foam, then soy milk, then almond milk, then this and that, and then this is the person who takes the order. Then he has or she has to go to the barista, so she has to transmit that to that person who makes the coffee, and then she or he has to remember who has what. I mean, it takes like sometimes 10 minutes just to order coffee for 4 people, when they all have, I want this and like that and da 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 da. Are you one of them?
No, but you should come to Italy.
It's not so bad. Italy, people still drink black coffee as it should be. They also start with this milk thing, like now here,
Early in the morning, yeah.
with like foam and this and that. But it didn't.
In the cold mug,
Yeah, yeah. Didn't I used to work in I was working in Rome. It wasn't like that. I admired the Italian people so much. They drink short shot of black coffee the whole day, nothing else, and that's it. I thought, like, okay, this is not complicated.
They like personalizing.
Yeah, see, this is how we make our lives difficult. Anyway, so there's suffering. To say that in Switzerland is a big thing. People don't really see it. But then here, as you see, the suffering is... anyway, would you agree to that? There is suffering. Suffering exists. Even if it's not you, look around you. It's not always about us. So when somebody says, "Oh no," I'm not suffering. The other day I had a group of of business women to, for a workshop in the House of Religions, and I went with this. And so one of them said, well, no, I don't suffer. I'm happy. I'm well. And I thought, well, if now in this big house and she goes to the toilet and we lock the toilet and she can't get out, I would see if she doesn't suffer. Nobody answers her calls. Yeah, this is it. I mean, what it basically means, this whole thing, there is suffering, and it's more and more actually, that it is very easy to be frustrated and stressed, no matter how good your outside situation is. Basically, that's what it is. Would you agree to that? Yeah. It needs so little for us to lose our balance and to be, to totally freak out. And I used to be an alcoholic, and I lied a lot. So now I only exaggerate. I don't lie anymore, but I still exaggerate. So you're not totally freaking out, but sometimes we don't even show that we're freaking out. But inside also, it takes very, very little that we feel this surge of energy coming up because we get upset. Yeah, isn't it? Can't button the thing, or the train is not coming, or so many things. But also he divided it into, you don't see it in the old sutras, but when you then study Tibetan Buddhism, and I'm sure also other forms of Buddhism, um, it's divided into 3 categories. The suffering of pain. So the suffering of pain is the first category, and for us, this is also a noble truth. Why? I said, it's a noble truth when you understand that this is true. Have we understand the suffering of pain? That pain is suffering. Pain body, pain mind. Have we understand that this is suffering? I would say yes. I mean, even animals have understood it. When it's too hot, an animal goes into the shade. When it's thirsty, I have a cat that comes to visit. I mean, he's so funny. When he's thirsty, he lies in the sink and he looks at the tap. So I have to open the tap for him, and then he drinks he only drinks running water, by the way. He doesn't drink anything in a bowl. Yeah, but that's how he can't talk, but that's how he talks. He lies he lies in the sink, and he looks at the tap until I open it. Very clever animal. So even animals have understood that. When we have pain in the body, we move, like Jeff just did. Yeah. When it's too hot, we take something off. When we're hungry, we eat. When we have eaten enough, we stop. Sometimes, this one maybe you haven't understood so much, but so this one we have understood. We don't need to be so clever, and we all know it from our own experience. You have all suffered from pain in the body and pain in the mind. And it's satisfactory? Is that what you want? If you would have a choice, would you choose it? This is a big question. Yeah, exactly. We have to be like Marcus. You have to be really sure. If you want to practice Buddhism, you have to be really sure, no, this is not satisfactory. This is not what I want. Because sometimes people even say, maybe from my suffering I can learn something, or I can grow, and can this. They say this when they're not suffering. They say this when there's no pain, When they're right in the middle of it, and I go and say, oh, what can you learn from it? Then they think I'm really cruel and have no compassion. Second one, more difficult to understand, suffering of change. We call it pleasure. We have this yearning for happiness, okay? Yeah? And we're trying to fulfill it because it's a yearning, so it's a pull. We go towards things. So each of us has different ideas what makes them happy. So the outside, whatever it is that makes you happy, that can be quite different. But the feeling or the experience of happiness, I think it's pretty much for everybody is the same, because I tend to point here as if it's sitting here, and for me happiness is when there's space in here. And when I'm not happy, or when negative emotion is there, I can feel that gets really narrow. Yeah. And if I could throw this away, then I would definitely throw it away. But we can work with it, but we can't just cut it out. This is it. We can't cut out our unhappiness, unfortunately. So the suffering of change means If we are looking for happiness in pleasures, the experience of what we get from the experience of or the result, or what we experience from having a pleasure, fades away. It doesn't last. That's why I was a bit hungry when I came, and I went to, in the train station, I went to buy small bread. I thought it was just bread. I bite into it. It was like dried apricots and nuts, and it was nice. But I didn't expect it at all. So again, it's this whole thing about you don't expect it. You go like, wow. You know what you're buying. The wow effect is gone. So I think I had more happiness not knowing what I was buying, because there were so many. I didn't think I was going to choose now. I just said this one. So I didn't even look what it was when I bought it. So I was very happy. But if I would have had to eat 5 or 6 of them, it would have turned into suffering. Yeah. So do you see what I mean? So this is what we're doing. We need to change things when we're looking for happiness outside. And this is where we are looking for happiness, is outside. So this is called hedonistic happiness, which depending on that something is there that I want, that I have decided I like it, that I want, that also my body can take somehow. What else is it depending on? That it suits my moral principles. Yeah. If I make mistakes sometimes in English, please don't. I'm not native speaking English person. Also, I haven't really that's another thing. I haven't really studied. I just learned it like that. So I'm sorry. Yeah. So like when we have like certain. Yeah, as you said, we don't eat meat, for example. So then even that is not 100% satisfying. Yeah, so like that. So everything changes. Or, for example, what you're saying is like when we can convince somebody that it's good for them to stop eating meat, then we're very happy at the beginning, but then afterwards it becomes kind of normal. And when we see that they're going back to eating meat, then we get very upset. So like that. But in general, we are looking for when you. I mean, you can, maybe this will be the homework for the week until you come back next Monday. When you feel uneasy and when you don't feel happy, then look, where does the mind turn? So when you open the fridge, or when you go and stand in front of the bakery and you look at these 700 different kinds of bread that seems to be needed also to be happy, then before you reach into the fridge, or before you decide what you're going to buy, then maybe ask yourself, well, what is it that I really want? Yeah. And then look, maybe you find something. So the suffering of change, nothing that is outside, that is, again, that is depending on a cause, depending on having something, is fulfilling that wish that we have to be lastingly happy or lastingly satisfied. That's quite sad, isn't it? So no matter how much progress we make, we'll never get where we actually want to go. Meaning having a happy society. Because also, how can I be happy when somebody else is unhappy? Yeah. So what do you think? Is there something that is called happiness that is not undergoing the suffering of change? No?
Not in my experience.
Huh?
Not in my experience.
Oh. Really not? Yeah.
Grateful for things.
For example, when you're grateful for something, you can always think about that experience. It will not fade away. You will always have access to that feeling of happiness. So it's called, I can't remember, eudaimonic or something like that, happiness. It comes from the Greek. They don't know how to translate it. Maybe true happiness or something like that. Happiness that is not depending on consuming something or having something. Being grateful, for example, you know. But we could be grateful for so many things, but we're not. We just take it for granted. Yeah. We have too much, and then we are not. Being grateful is something that you train also very consciously by thinking, how would it be not to have it? Yeah.
Make the list each evening, 10 things I'm happy for.
Yeah, for example, Venerable Namgyal, who was here, he's always advising people to have this gratefulness journal. That when you're well, then you look and you think, you write down 5 things that you can be grateful about. And it's like a journal. And when you're depressed and when you're totally unhappy, you open that thing and you look at it because you forget. When you're angry or depressed or full of fear, then you don't have access to these emotions anymore. So you need to have the intellectual crutch to get you there again. Okay? So that's something you could do. So there is something like lasting happiness. Love. Not attached love, but just to see somebody and be just thinking, oh wow, it's so wonderful that this person is happy. Yeah? This is something that we have access to without having to consume something. So it's in the nature of our mind to be like that, but it's very much covered with this ego clinging thing, I, me, and I want, and especially with the wrong view that if I don't have a nice house, if I don't have a good car, if I don't have a partner job, the right bread, the right coffee machine, whatever, if I don't have all of this, then I'll be terribly unhappy. Isn't it? These are the views that we have, and then when we're lacking it, then of course we are unhappy.
So you said some expectations, and as you just mentioned, when you open a refrigerator, for example, you expect there to have like yogurt, and then we open it, and then we get disappointed because there is no yogurt. And when we enter a new relationship, whether it's with friends or with a partner or whatever, we tend to project our own expectations onto that person, for example.
Exactly.
We want that person to be exactly the person that we
Mm-hmm.
want, and then we get disappointed because we are not really open.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not really interested in the person as
No.
itself. We're interested in what we want this person to be.
We're interested at the beginning when you fall in love. You're interested in the feeling that the person is giving you, but because we think that the feeling is coming from the person, then it undergoes the suffering of change, and then the feeling fades, and then you think there's something wrong with the person. You know, this is a very nice story from Lama Yeshe when this young man, he wanted to become a monk, I think. What was it? Anyway, he wanted to become a monk, and then he was in a relationship, and no, he wanted to become a monk. So Lama Yeshe said, yes, it's fine. And then he fell in love with the woman who kind of turned up in Kopan or something. So he went to see Lama Yeshe and he said, oh, I've been thinking about it. I fell in love with this woman and she's so wonderful and we could practice together and it will be very helpful. And I think we're just made for each other. We must be old souls. We must have met each other before. And so Lama Yeshe said, yeah, fine. If you want to go into a relationship with her, go into a relationship. A little bit later, he came back and he said, oh gosh, my practice has totally fallen apart. This person clings to me and I can't practice anymore. She just wants to be together with me all the time and all this. Lama Yeshe said, look, somebody changing so much in such a short time, biologically, totally impossible. Do you understand? That he said it's impossible for a person to change so much in such a short time. What has changed? As you said, your approach to you see her in a totally different light. She is still the same person. First you were in love, and when you are in love, you project all the good things on that person. You can't see the negative things. We'll talk about this when we come to the negative emotions, how they project. And then, and then when that fades away, because it will fade away, then you start to see, because then you get angry because it's not what you expected, yeah, and then you start to get angry, and then you only see the negative things. So this is how our mind works when negative emotions are there, when we project. The more it gets narrow in here, the stronger the projection. Okay, the suffering of change, we think it's a good thing. Makes life interesting, isn't it? So we haven't understood it. So for us, it's not noble. It's not a noble truth. Suffering of pain, we have understood. Having understood means we want to get rid of it. Okay? So, and then this third one is the pervasive compounded suffering. This is even more difficult to understand. So basically what it means, for 24 hours a day, even though we get up in the morning, we're totally well, we're totally open, we're totally happy, but we carry with us 24 hours a day, this body and this mind, that just like this, when some conditions outside change, or sometimes not even, yeah, it can go into from being very happy into quite depressed, frightened, angry, unhappy, whatever. Do you see what I mean? And we carry this with us wherever we go. Yeah, this is called the 5 contaminated aggregates. Okay, so that's the first noble truth. Not just the suffering of pain, yeah, but it's also to carry around the way we are made up, the way we are, this mind and this body who are very, very sensitive. So that's the first thing he said. It's like a doctor who says, hey, you're sick. Okay? We haven't maybe the first two, the second and the third sickness, we haven't noticed yet. So we need somebody who tells us, you carry something in you, that then will go into the suffering of pain after a while. Okay? So that's what he said. Second, he said, the second what he found out is there is a cause for that suffering, or the origin of the suffering. So as it says here, all the various mental afflictions as well as the actions of body, speech and mind arising from those mental afflictions, called karma, are the causes of our suffering. It is said in the Buddhist teachings that there are 84,000 afflictions, but we can summarize them into 6 root afflictions. Yeah, you don't have to learn them all. Ignorance, and it's what the ignorance that we have is an active ignorance. It's not just the not knowing. It's projecting something onto something which is not there. Like projecting real, true, inherent existence onto something. Okay? That things exist independently. This is what we project. Then out of that, and especially it talks about this I or this ego, that there's a real inherently existing from its own side autonomous I, and this is how it feels. I don't know, now you're all looking at me like that. It's kind of, if you hear this for the first time, you need to hear this many times until you get what, and from better people than me also, until you get what is talking about. But there is, when I talk about I, what you feel an I, now probably not, until you start to get upset and you go like, what the heck is she talking about? Then it starts to come up. Or when, I don't know, you go out and your shoes are not there anymore. Then I guarantee you, it's not your body who rebels. It's the I who says, where are my shoes? As if the I is your shoes, in a way. Huh? Yeah, my shoes. Okay? So this is an experience, it's a feeling. Do you see what I mean? Yeah? So whatever is not good for this I, it's this I who decides, and it's not very intelligent on top of it, what is not good for it, and then it gets angry in order to get rid of it. Yeah, we use anger to liberate ourselves from something. Yeah, whatever it thinks is good for it, it gets attached to it, or it has desire for it. Then there's pride, also arrogance, thinking I'm the best of all. Then there's deluded doubt, like doubting that whatever would be beneficial is true. Deluded doubt is doubting something and not doing something about something that is actually true. That's deluded doubt. Doubt otherwise is good. Doubt on the path is very important. that you need to doubt. Don't just take everything on board like this, but it's really good to doubt. And then to examine. Don't sit with your doubt and wait for the doubt to clear itself up. With doubt, you have to work. And you work with it in a way that, like for example, rebirth. Yeah, in Buddhism there is rebirth. It's a view. I don't know if there's rebirth or not. I mean, I think I saw one of my previous life at one point in a therapy session. Um, Maybe it was true, maybe it was not. It was very helpful. Um, but I can believe it or I can not believe it. So then, how I would work with the doubt is that I think, what happens if I believe it? Yeah, how will it influence my life if I believe it? In a beneficial way or in a non-beneficial way? This is how one starts to work with that, and also to study and to listen and to learn more. Okay. So it's only deluded doubt which is negative, something that is holding us back. And then wrong views. Yeah, the wrong view of, for example, um, there is no such thing as law of cause and effect. I mean, as long as the cause for something is there, like as long as the cause for suffering is there, then there is suffering. As long as the cause for global warming is there, there will be global warming. We can do whatever we want. And also the Dalai Lama says, he says, the problems we have today, they're not made by the gods. They're man-made, so there's no point sitting down and praying. We have to solve it ourselves. Yeah, so, but this we can see, like with the climate and all this, I mean, I don't know if it's true what they're saying, but I believe it. And if I believe it, then I can start taking care of what I'm consuming and what I'm doing, for example. So that would not be, even I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't see directly. See what I mean? Yeah. Many things we think we know, but we don't. We just believe it. How many of you know that there's a North Pole? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when it comes down to these things here, that the causes and conditions, karma, and all this, and that the negative emotions are creating are the causes for the suffering. I think first we need to believe it. Until then, we get a direct experience because we don't see how karma works. But still, I mean, the problem that we have in the world. Can you see in the human world? Can you see that it comes from self-centeredness? People are just thinking about themselves, not caring what they do to others, not seeing how dependent we are on others, out of anger, aggression, greed. Is it true or not? I mean, we don't have to be so clever to see, you know. So that's it. And that when you usually we think when we are angry, I'm not suffering. I am suffering, and then it creates karmic imprints that then after a while it all comes back. Yeah. So this is what we don't see, and this is what we don't accept. So even if you don't accept karma, even if the law of cause and effect, let's call it like that, but you can see that if you would have a choice, would you rather choose to spend your life in a very angry state or in a happy state? What? I can't read your thoughts. It's evident because he kind of just like, come on, it's evident. What are you asking? It's true, it's evident, isn't it? Especially the people who come here. But I do know people who say, no, sorry, I need my anger. And I would guarantee you, if we go to the train station, and I kind of say, what would you could you imagine a life without anger? Many of them would say, no. Some of the anger I want to keep because otherwise people will exploit me. They will think I'm stupid. They will think I'm weak and all this. Yeah, this is what most of the people think. So this would not be Buddhism. This is like to really see the troublemaker is our deluded mind. So delusions, it's called delusions, afflictive emotions, negative emotions. Um, we come to them a bit more in detail what they are, because now I also want to do some meditation with you, so we need to go through this, but we're pretty much on track here. And don't forget, it's just an introduction. Because, wow, it would be great, if in 2 hours one could explain to somebody what Buddhism is and how to practice. Wow, that would be fantastic. I would be jobless. I would have a lot of free time. Okay, the third noble truth, and this is just as important. So kind of basically we're still with the doctor. The Buddha says there is suffering. Yeah, something is wrong. That's the first thing. Then he tells us the causes. Causes are our actions that we do with body, speech, and mind when there is a negative emotion present. Yeah, when the intention to do the action is kind of negative. So that is the cause. Yeah. So for example, me, bad liver because you drink too much alcohol. That's the cause. So it's my responsibility. It's not the doctor who says it. Okay. The third noble truth is like it's possible to attain a state which is free from suffering of pain, suffering of change, and this all-pervasive suffering. It is possible to attain such a state. That's my telephone. Just let it ring. It's okay. I forgot to turn it off because it rings so seldom that I don't really have to turn it off. It's quite rare that it rings. Okay. As the mental afflictions and the karmic imprints arising from negative actions are adventitious rather than intrinsic to the pure nature of the mind, it is possible to completely purify the mind of these negative aspects and to develop the mind fully to its enlightened state. Do you trust that? Do you believe it? Because you will go on that way when we start to trust. Do we trust that our nature is good? Great. Marcus says yes. This is really, really necessary, not just for Buddhists or spiritual practitioners. I think it would be really, really good for everybody to start to trust that at the base, at the bottom, at the base, we are good. Why? Because it feels good. This is it. It doesn't feel good to be angry. When you really look, some people who are, some people say they enjoy their anger, but you don't know how they feel. But look at yourself when you're angry. Does it really feel good when you're angry? It gives us a lot of energy, but does it feel good? Or sometimes when you're, somewhere out in nature, the sun comes up and you're totally not wanting anything and you're just standing there, you're just being yourself and everything is just okay. Such a difference, isn't it? And that is our nature when we're there, when we're totally open, everything is just okay. And it can be developed because that's the nature. We can never lose it. And it's only covered by these negative emotions and by these wrong views. It's good news, basically. Same way as the doctor would say, hey, your whatever you have is not natural for your body. It is because you have created the causes for the liver to go bad. And now, then the fourth noble truth is the path to the cessation of suffering, kind of the cure. Okay? And then it goes into many, many things in order to get rid of these 84,000 afflictions. But the 84,000 afflictions, they will go when you have understood emptiness, when you have a direct experience of how the mind projects. So the projection might still be there, but you know that it's just a projection. A good example is the rainbow. A rainbow appears, but it's not real. It looks real, but it's not real. Okay? So, or even better, how many of you have been in the desert? Have you seen Fata Morgana? Okay. It looks totally real. Can you please confirm? Like water. It looks totally like water. So if you don't know that this is a Fata Morgana, that it's just an apparition, how you say in English? A mirage. If you don't know that it's a mirage and you're thirsty, what do? You run. And you get disappointed. And then you see the next mirage and you run and you get disappointed. And this is what we do in daily life. The mirage is the pleasure outside. The mirage is the situation outside that will make me happy. And we run there and, not that. Okay, let's look. Where is the next mirage? Yeah. So it will only stop when we see the mirage as a mirage. And everybody in the desert, nobody runs because we all know it's a mirage, it's an illusion. The illusion can appear. The illusion itself is not the problem. The appearance of this me, I here, that seems to be so strong, that's not the problem. The problem is that we believe, we hold it for true. We believe it and we start to cherish it and we think we're the center of the world instinctively. Yeah, everybody does that. My happiness is more important than somebody else's happiness, unless we have something biological also. Unless when my happiness is not more important than whose other happiness? Exactly, but your own, not somebody else's, not the neighbor's child. And it's another thing, we say, well, it's biological. I don't even think it's biological, because these children could have been exchanged in the hospital as babies. The other day I saw a film like this where somebody exchanged a baby who couldn't hear, and she exchanged it for another one. But we're so sure. So it's another kind of learned thing that this is my son and this is my daughter. Well, most of the time probably is. I hope so. I don't think they just swap babies. Or Midnight Children. Do you remember this Salman Rushdie book? No? Where the two boys got exchanged when Pakistan and India got, that when they became independent. So a nurse, she swapped the beggar boy for a rich person's boy. And then it's the story of these two boys, how they grew up. Nobody knows that book? Okay, so this is then the path to the cessation of suffering, and we'll start looking at this path, which is kind of structured. There's many paths. We will not look at the eightfold path. Usually that's what it comes here. We will look at what is called Lamrim, the graduated path to enlightenment, where first you practice, where you are not so much interested in pleasures anymore, things like that. Or first you appreciate your situation that you're in. You become aware that it won't last. And you make a decision, I want to do something now. So this is basically what we'll do next time. So these Four Noble Truths. There is suffering. This is the cause or the origin of suffering. It's possible to attain a state which is free from suffering, the cessation of suffering. And suffering, not just the suffering of pain, because that one is, if you just do good deeds, you get pretty much rid of that in the next life. And then how? These four things, do you understand those four things? Or do you have questions? Because this is the basis. If you don't have that, then the Lamrim doesn't make so much sense, actually. Because then the Lamrim becomes like the cure. Yeah. So the attitudes that you have at the beginning, actually, of if you want to engage in a path, now you're just here to listen, so you don't need to have this attitude. But for this whole thing to work, is you need to have an attitude. I am the patient. I'm sick. I mean, how many of you came here thinking that you're sick? Nobody. We all think we're pretty much okay. Yeah. But still, we're totally under the control of desire, attachment, anger, jealousy, depression, aggression, self-concern, isn't it? You can't say, look, today, please, just today, stay at home. I go to work. We're totally under the control of those things, isn't it? I mean, I am. I don't know about you guys. And after these 20, 30 years of practice, slowly, I start to not to control them, but they start to fade out. They start to have much less power, and the progress, I have to say, is pretty slow, but it's still, it's still worthwhile. I don't need the alcohol anymore. I don't need the psychiatrist anymore. It's like, wow, it's great. I think I have a pretty happy mind most of the time, actually. Sometimes also it plunges, but then it doesn't last so long. So I don't want to sell anything to you. Like these mindfulness courses. It will cost a lot of money when they say, the antidote to depression and this and that. Yeah, sure, but after quite a long time. Yeah, so Nothing against mindfulness courses, by the way. It's really good. It's good that people are starting to do that and looking at their mind. But it's not such a quick way, and it's not such a quick answer. So if you have this kind of attitude, what is my sickness? What do you think? What is your sickness? I just said. What are we suffering from? For example, attachment. Huh?
Self-centeredness.
Self-centeredness, yes. Huh? Ignorance, wrong views. What else? Insecurity, aggression, depression, all these kind of things. All these things that, well, with anger, if you're a very angry yeah, there's also anger management, isn't it? We go to the psychologist. So basically, this is you become your own psychologist. Yeah. So, but this is what we need to see. The problem when I'm unhappy is not out there. The problem when I'm not well is here, is in my mind. So this is the Buddhist view. And if I want to be a happy person, then, and I want to be free of these negative emotions, then I need to practice this path. So me, myself, I don't find it out. So I need the Buddha to tell me what I have, what my sickness is, what the cure is. So the Dharma, like the teachings, they become the cure, they become the medicine. Your practice becomes the cure, because knowing everything about the medicine is not going to help you either. Yeah. And so this is very good attitude to have. The more you yearn to be free from these negative emotions, the more you'll be happy about receiving methods. Now, one thing is really important before you embark on this path, that you don't identify yourself with negative emotions. They're not you. Because if you do, and you see them all the time and all the time and all the time, you get pretty depressed. Yeah, after a while. And nobody talks about suppressing negative emotions, or living them out, or whatever. We're talking about transforming them is maybe not such a good thing. Because you see, we talk about anger, and then people say, "Oh, I'm not allowed to get angry anymore." It's not true. Even anger can be, the energy of anger can be constructive. What we start to study or to see is if that emotion is constructive or destructive. So even joy can be destructive. Like if Marcus is very depressed, and I just had a very good thing, and I come into the job and I go blah 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 about what happens to me and how wonderful and this and that, I have zero empathy for how Marcus is feeling. It hurts him. My joy is hurting him. Yeah. So of course, we have this list of negative and positive emotions, but it's not so clear cut. It's not prefabricated. So this is why a certain level of being able to watch ourselves, what is going on the mind, and to really see is really necessary, because otherwise, it can go totally wrong. I have to warn you, it's quite a complicated path. And it implies sitting down and looking at your own mind. But I would say it's really worthwhile. So once you know these Four Noble Truths, once you know that there's something you want to get rid of, once you have a feeling that maybe this Buddhist path can help you, you don't have to become a Buddhist. Yeah, it's just that we have to do the practices. Then we need to, that's what we do next time, we need to see, do I have what I need to go on this path? Do you have what you need to go on this path? We'll look at this next time. Now we do meditation, because that's the next question that you have to ask yourself, Okay, I want to free myself from something. Yeah. What do I want? What is my priority? Do I have what I need in order to develop that? So what I said before I forget, because I say memory is really, I could get upset about it, but there's no point. It doesn't get better if I get upset. And by the way, if I forget something and all this, you can get angry at me, but I assure you I'm not doing it on purpose. Yeah. I used to have a very, very good memory. It's just like really, it's like really going. Yeah, it's going. What can I do? It's like if I had a choice, I would not choose that. But this is how it is. But I could feel myself at the beginning. So I was getting very nervous about it. No, it's okay. And the more I'm okay about it, the less I forget. So also this is what I mean. And but I don't do it on purpose. I have no choice. I can't choose to forget or not to forget. I forget, and everybody is like this. So please don't ever get angry at somebody when they forget something. They don't do it on purpose. They have no choice, especially when they're my age. Okay. Okay, so for short meditation, it says we have to do, as very good students, handout number 1, which is, I think, the 7 points. Here. Okay, so it is said that it's good to have 7 points. Of course, you know, it says here all these things. I would say the main thing is that you're comfortable and relaxed. Yeah. But it's good. It's good to pay attention to these 7 things. So the legs, if you can have them in, first we go through them, and then we'll do the meditation. We'll do a body scan at the same time, so that we can combine these 2. So the legs, if you can have them in full lotus, that's perfect. If not, you have one leg on top of here or in front of each other. So, yeah, exactly. If you can either because like this, you very often cut your blood circulation if you have them like that. Yeah, so that's perfect. Or like that. I would say, Marcus, go a little bit further to the back so that both your ankles are really on the cushion. And on the red cushion, you only need to sit on the, on the edge, so that it makes so that your spine goes into. Then the hands, if it feels comfortable, have them in your lap. The left hand is supporting the right hand. By the way, if you do, I think, Chan meditation, it's the other way around. You will hear many, many things that are different. Now, it is not that this is right and this is wrong. There's also something it's good to know and to learn. It's just different. We don't need to find out what is right, what is wrong. You find out what is right for me. Even if you find that this feels more comfortable. In general, here it says left hand is supporting the right hand. Thumbs are slightly touching. But also, you can sit like this. Not really. You can put your palms on your knees. Sometimes people sit like this. Now, if you have had like instructions from a meditation teacher to sit like this, that's fine. If you just think it looks cool, then I'm not sure, But if you, try out, because this is really relaxing. Yeah, or like this also. Then like, what's your name? Toby, huh? Fabio. Where are you? Are you from Italy? Yeah, right. You're the coffee person. The coffee, Fabio. If we go out for coffee, I'll drink espresso without anything in it, I tell you. I still think this is the best. I'm sorry. All these frosts and this and that. Is like, yeah, good. We agree on that point. That's good. Okay, so then like Fabio does, look, it's good. And then elbows a little bit extended from the upper body, because it opens up your chest. And then the most important thing, the back is straight. Not just like that, but comfortably straight. Then the head is slightly inclined forward, like just as if somebody would be pulling a string here. Yeah, it's like this would be totally straight. Slightly inclined would be a bit like that. You just let it drop a little bit, not too much. Eyes, you have, if you want, slightly open. Or open. Actually, if it's not too distracting, if you're a beginner, very often people prefer to close their eyes. If you learn to meditate with your eyes open, the thing is you won't get into too much into daydreaming. But especially if you have things in front of you, like things you're not used to, then maybe better close your eyes, because you'll be less distracted. The mouth, also make sure it is totally relaxed, and the tongue is touching the palate. So these are the 7 points. And now we do kind of a body scan. I will not do it as it is said here. We might be able to do another time, but we'll use these 7 points because very often also we're not very, very conscious about our body. So we can go through these 7 points. So first you go to your feet and to your legs, and you really go to experience what is happening in your feet and in your legs. So you're not looking at me. You can close your eyes and your whole attention goes down there. And whenever you breathe in, you are aware of that area in your body. What body sensations are there? Without any judging, just looking. Whenever the attention goes away, you come right back. And as I said, having a relaxed body is so important, so that when you breathe out, what you can do now is you think you relax everything in your legs and in your feet down to the smallest cells, like you become very wide and very open and very soft. And you stay in that area. Make sure that you are with your legs and with your feet. So we can do that a few times. Breathing in, totally aware of the sensations there, without any judgment. We allow everything to happen. Breathing out, you let go, you open up, you become very wide, down to the smallest cells. Then you move up to your buttocks and your genital area, so the same thing. By breathing in, you're totally aware of that area. Breathing out, you relax. Let go of all tensions that you might be holding there, because very often we pull the buttocks together and we don't notice it because we think it gives the spine a bit more strength. There's no need. Then you go to your belly and your lower back. You can let your breath just flow very naturally, but while breathing in, with your attention, you're totally aware, totally there, belly and lower back. Breathing out, you relax, you open up, you become very wide. Then you go to your chest. Sometimes there is very narrow, very tense, and we don't even notice it. Then again, by breathing out, notice what is there. By breathing in, sorry. what kind of body sensations are in your chest. By breathing out, you open up. No need to be afraid of anything. No need to pull things together. You think everything opens up down to the smallest cells, or you can think all these small cells are like little small flowers that open up when the sun shines on them. Then you move up to your shoulders. There also we hold a lot of tensions. Make them soft. No need to hold anything. No need to carry anything. Breathing in, you're totally there with your full attention, like a mother looking at her child or a father. No judging, just being aware. By breathing out, become very soft, totally open. Then you move down your arms and you check whether your elbows are a little bit extended from your upper body. And you go down to your hands where you probably feel it tingling. Again, these sensations are always there, but we don't notice them. So same thing, by breathing out, you open up, become very wide, totally relaxed. Hands are not heavy, just like feathers lying on your lap, in your lap or on your knees. Then you move back up. First you do neck and throat, same thing. And then especially the face. So there we're holding also very subtle tensions, the jaws, the cheeks. Sometimes even the ears you can relax more. Around and behind your eyes and the front. And then try to, with your awareness, to encompass the whole body as it is sitting there. And putting your awareness on your breath. And trying to be with the breath in your whole body. Maybe to notice that just by doing that you create some space and some relaxation. And then into that space that you might have created now, you put that idea or the thought, I am a good person. Just that. No why or not or no reason, just that. If it's too heavy, I am a good person, and just the nature of my mind is goodness, spaciousness, like totally unlimited. And intelligence, we all have it. And as much as possible, may I be able to share that innate goodness that I have, that openness, with many, many, many other beings. May they be able to benefit from my goodness, my good heart, my open heart. May I be able to live that potential that we all have of kindness, compassion, and wisdom. And just as we were aware of the body sensations before, try to see the state of your mind. No need to put words to it, just experience it. And there also no judging. Okay. We still have 3 minutes. Do you have any questions?
3 minute answer. What's the mind?
That which is clear and knowing. That which is able to perceive objects and to engage with them, to know them. Yeah. So we have an eye mind or an eye. We have an organ, but the organ also needs a mind behind it. Okay. And then one says we have this mind stream who goes like moment by moment by moment by moment. It's not material. It needs the brain, it needs the eyes, it needs the ears and all this, but we have an eye consciousness, ear consciousness. Eye consciousness recognizes form and shape, shape and color, sorry. Ear consciousness recognizes sounds and all that. Then we have a mental consciousness. And it is said that to the mental consciousness we don't have direct access, only through thoughts. There's only, when I see something, there's a short moment, really not much shorter than that, of direct mental consciousness, but then immediately my opinions, what I knew before, and all this jumps in, and then it goes into concepts. And then it starts good, bad. I like, I don't like. So basically, I like, I don't like. This is how we spend our life. Yeah. So, but we can't always choose what comes in front of us. So we can learn to like everything, because everything can be a medicine. Or how to say? Everything can be. We can learn from everything. Yeah. So like that. So, but what I wanted to cover today was these 4 noble truths, because they are the basis for what all the Buddhists, or what Buddhism says, and then we'll build up on that. There is suffering. These are the causes of suffering, our past actions and our negative emotions. Then it's possible to have a clear mind. The nature of the mind is clear, exactly like water. Yeah, these negative emotions that are inside is like if you have sand in the water and then it gets stirred. So, but because it's not one with the water, we can take it out. But the definition of mind is that which is clear and knowing. Clear meaning it's not obstructive and it can't be obstructed because it's not matter. Knowing, it knows its object. Eye, shape and color, ear, sound, nose, smells, tongue, tastes, body, sensations. It uses the brain, same way as the eye consciousness uses the eyes, but no, there's also an energy in the brain that is actually the mind, which is not matter. Because otherwise, if mind is brain, there's no rebirth. I've never seen a dead person, skull opens and the brain flies out to some other body. It wouldn't fit the baby anyway. It's the same thing. When they say mind, they think it's the same thing as consciousness. I did add it because usually it's not in these things in. I added on page 19, I added a little bit mind and 51 mental factors. So you have the main minds, these 6 main minds, and inside you have mental factors who each one has a job to do. But they're also consciousness, they're also not. So this is how the Buddha explains the mind. 2,600 years ago. Not bad, eh? I think. Yeah. But of course there's different views, and if you're interested in that as a scientist, then also there's life mind conferences. Also in January in Luzern there is always a conference on that, like spirituality and science. Can't remember what it's called. I'm going, but I'm to listen. Yeah, yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, this is big debate. What is mind? But it's that which feels, that which thinks, that which has emotions. That is what would be called mind or consciousness in Buddhism. Okay? Okay? Good. Well, thank you very much. Do you remember your homework? Which is?
Where does the mind turn? In which moment when we are in a situation making things happen?
Exactly. Where does it turn to? And then when you at the object, you go, is that what I really want? Yeah, kind of. Or you can also ask yourself, is that a trustworthy source of refuge where I turn to? The mobile, or the TV, or the fridge, or the coffee. I drink one a day, but I used to drink so many, but now it's only one. Okay. And I can be without also, so I'm very happy about that. But I still like very much good coffee. You see, also as a Buddhist, even as a nun, it's not forbidden to like good things. You have them, you enjoy them. You don't have them, you don't have them. No big deal. Yeah, and I think the more you are a bit like this, the more you do enjoy it, because the more we consume, the more we need to make us happy. You know, if you have a coffee once a month, like wow, this is. But I'm not depriving myself. Today I didn't have one, so. But if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope I made things a little bit clearer, or maybe I made you more confused. Then ask your